Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us today. We haven't had a webinar for a couple of weeks because the team across the Police Digital Service and myself have been out and about talking to you, the users of our police technology, the stakeholders in the supplier community, and even lots of international visitors. And it's fair to say that there's been a great deal of interest in our work within the Police Digital Service and UK policing and what we're doing to technology. But first of all, before we get into the webinar, we need to do the housekeeping to make sure you're all getting the absolute most out of today's session. And please be interactive as we go. So here's the tips on how to use it. So first of all, you've got on there a little guide Mike and I are presenting today. You've got the button for the Q&A and comments in the top right hand side of your screen. Make sure you don't press the leave button by accident, but you can pop your questions, comments or straight into there and we'll see them as we come through the session. CC caption button allows you to have this live broadcast in captions, and you can have to choose from many of the languages we've got there. 6 languages available, including Welsh, English, and a couple of other languages there. So if you are joining us from afar, please do select that so you can keep up. And just remember to keep your comments and questions coming in as we go through today's session. And even if you're in a noisy environment, it's sometimes easier to use the closed captioning to keep it on top of everything that's going on. So as I was explaining, over the last couple of weeks, we've been doing a lot of meetings with people, and I've personally spoken to a number of colleagues who work on the front line or in back office positions across UK policing, who express their frustration with some of the daily tasks and routines and the amount of time it takes them to do things that actually block them from doing the things they join policing to do to make decisions, to be effective as they want to, and make a real impact in how we protect the public. And it was clear, however, in terms of the issues they were raising and the problems they faced, that there was actually technical solutions already there available to help them, but they weren't aware. Now, that's not a problem. The technology we are using updates on a daily basis. The tools are evolving and changing. New services come online in the background. We don't even know they're there. So it's quite helpful sometimes to have a regular update on what the functionality is there and the tools that you can use to help you. And sometimes it's fair to say we just haven't got the time to look up and see what else we could do and how else we could work. So Mark and I are going to take you through some of those tips today. Hope they're of value and please share them on with your colleagues. But Mike, from your experience working in the learning and development space, what would your experience be in delivering change and how does our audience today need to consider these points as we take new ways of working forward?
Thanks, Dave, and hi, everyone. I think what's been really interesting when we look at delivering sort of formal training programs around change and how people need to understand new ways of working. I think one of the biggest frustrations for anybody taking on a new piece of work is it's going to take longer than the normal way I do things. When you look at how you change your behavior and you pick up new skills, there's always going to be a time when it's going to take a little while for you to start to get as comfortable with it as you used to be with the old way of working. Now, I find this when I'm working with Dave, and Dave will fly around the screen and with all the different actions around 365, and he makes it look so easy, and you think, oh, nothing to it. It's then when you start looking at it and you start trying to do it yourself, you're looking to your user manual, you're looking for videos, and slowly but surely you begin to build your knowledge, but it can be incredibly frustrating. But as time goes on, and as you become more comfortable with it, you can start doing tasks and actions without even really thinking about it. And it's from that transition from seeing someone do something really smoothly to then realizing you can't do it and you have to learn, and then taking yourself through that patient process of learning and developing the new skill. If you could then fast forward into 6 months' time, if you've really stuck at it, you start thinking, well, why didn't I do this in the first place? Because new ways of working, and particularly some of the tips that we're going to show today, Dave, will really help people understand and release time so that they can start doing some of the other stuff that they need to get to. So I think the biggest tip that we say to anybody within a training environment with a new skill is persevere with it, be patient with yourself, and slowly but surely you will develop the skills to be just as fast as you were before.
Thanks, Mike. And to me, it's more about the skills to cope with the changes than having to know a process from end to end. So importantly, the things we're going to be covering today are based on the standard Microsoft 365 technology that's enabled across all UK forces due to the PDS blueprint. And perhaps some of the functions might not be switched on your force, but they're all within the blueprint. They're all allowed to be used. They're all assured to the same standards. So if it isn't available when you try it out, contact your RCD service desk. You may have to explain the benefit you need to achieve this, but we've already paid for these services. They're part of our license agreements. We already have them, so if you're not using them, please do. It helps you get more value. And as I say, we're not talking about anything that's a premium license service, any additional functionality. So let's get to the starting point today. And we'll start off with the place most of us start, particularly the office-based colleagues. And it's your Outlook email, of course, where we start our days. And we'll also be talking about Teams in parallel. And it's these two applications you have open from the start of the day to the close of the day. So we're going to start off with a real game changer, and it's a solution that helps us with Outlook. And it's a big issue we have in Outlook is email chains. This is where an email comes in and it's already perhaps 2 or 3 people are having a conversation through Outlook. But often these conversations are internal, and it causes problems when people who've been off perhaps for a few days working opposite shifts come in and they start reading a thread part way through and don't read the latest information. And it can actually take a long time to understand what actually the conversation is in the thread. You keep having to scroll down the screen, and of course with an email you get the headers and footers every time, so you can be scrolling forever down to the bottom of the page. So what is there a better way to actually have that conversation in a more effective way? So what's the better way? And of course we could easily use Teams for this. Now, of course, you can, of course, manually take that email, copy it into Teams, but there is a really simpler way. So Mike's going to demonstrate that for us today, and hopefully he can. So an email's come in, and you can see it in the inbox there, and you're going to need to liaise with internal colleagues or members of your team, or even beyond, who are in the same force tenant, and talk about the message, and Teams is the better way to do it. So a couple of clicks will show you how to do that. So we just opened a simple Outlook, and at the top of the screen there, you can see Mike's pointing with a little yellow pointer to the SharePoint on Teams. I'm going to take us both off screen so you can actually focus on the screen fully there. And you can see there in Outlook, in the message we've got, he's going to share to Teams. So he clicks that button once, simple icon, and we are entrusting the demo gods to work well for us here, and they have worked. And what you can see there is Teams has opened up without having to go to Teams, brought in the email, and it's also read who's involved in that email chain and suggesting to Mike that they're the people who should be in the participants. So you can simply select that in. Now I've got Rachel and Richard in the background there who we might say, let's bring them into the chat, or myself. Or you might want to take somebody out of that chat as well. So you can easily select who's going to be in there, add those in, and you can put a little note in there as well about what you want to discuss, etc. But the beauty is you've got the original email, including any attachments that might be there as well. So if you might click share in a second, that'll send that away to Teams. And what will happen is you won't have to actually go to email to find out what's going on. So you can see that's now Teams has finished with it. It's dealt with it in the Outlook. You can leave it in a folder or wherever you were in Outlook. And if I head over to Teams as we've got that open, I'll just open the right browser. Apologies. I did have it open earlier. Here's what I opened earlier in typical fashion. And it's just dropped out. There we go. So I'll just open that up, and it's coming as a normal notification as you'd normally expect to see. Let me just pop that out into a chat because you don't want to see the millions of messages that I've got at the moment because I have a lot going on. So I'll just pop that there. I'll put the screen share on. So there it is. Mike's brought the message in. You can see he's involved in the chat, and now we can all discuss what's going on, how we want to respond to it, react to it, come up with an answer in real time. We can even click a button and press meet now and suddenly have a meeting with everybody who's involved in that thread. Plus, of course, you can do a few other things as well to help manage the thread. So this is an ideal opportunity to think about how we're going to manage chat in a space as well. So let's just have a quick look at this. So I'm going to pop this chat out a bit, and you might want to perhaps, sorry, it was wrong click. Too many clicks going on here, as you can see. So what you might want to add another person into the chat, and you can do this in any chat, not just one from starts from an email. So I might want to suddenly say, okay, then I'm going to add Richard into this now. And the beauty is you've got the choices there to be able to include all the history, none of the history, or just what history from the today. So yeah, now I've added Richard into the chat. Everybody can catch up with what's going on. It's a really simple way to keep up on top of it. And again, you can leave the chat, etc. So a really powerful tool to be able to take an email into chat, discuss it, come up with a resolution, and then at the end of the day, decide, right, okay, we know how we're going to reply back to that member of the public. We now know how we're going to respond to the person. The person who's dealing with the email goes back to their Outlook, composes the reply, but they can also share with all their colleagues who've been involved how it's been dealt with. So a really good way of doing this to make it all work in an effective way, save time, everybody knows what's going on. And people who don't need to contribute haven't got to delete an email. And remember, whenever you add an email to somebody, somebody's got to file it, delete it. And if you think about how often that is done in a day, that's quite a lot of time and effort going in. It does mean thinking about changing the culture to move to internal chats on Teams, but that is a more effective way of seeing when people are available. So, Mike, we did discuss whether we'd go into another way of taking an Outlook into something as well, which was about calendar. So, have you got another email we could talk about setting up a meeting and scheduling?
What I've started to do, Dave, and I can change this if you want, is I've started to create a meeting invite. So if I share my screen, and the idea behind this is to try and find the best way to get as many people as possible in the right place. Now, I don't know about people that are on the call, but up until recently, what I used to do is put the names in, I'd go through the scheduling assistant, and I'd keep checking to actually find a time where I could see a gap for everyone. So what I'm doing here is trying something very different, which is on scheduling poll. So I'm just adding some names in. You can use the drop down, or you can put in the names as you are going along. And I think, right, I need to have a 30-minute session on scheduling the Teams meeting. Now, as you can see here at the top of the screen, just by my cursor, there is a little icon in orange with scheduling poll. And if I click on that, you'll see down the right-hand side of my screen, there are now some options that are coming up. And what the system has very cleverly done is look through the names that we've got there and started to see when people are available. Now, it will work towards your Outlook diary. So there might be times where you said, right, okay, I'm going to block some time out for some admin, or I'm going to be doing some writing, or of course, you're going to be in a meeting. But you want to try and find the best way to invite people along to a meeting, give people the option to either accept it or decline. So what I'm going to do is I'm looking down the side here, and as you can see, it's already identifying times when people are free. And if you wanted to click on this one, you'll actually see who's available and who's currently not available at the moment. But I want to use that as an option. So we've clicked 3 o'clock this afternoon. I'm also looking at 1:30 p.m. and 12:30 p.m. and 2:30. So by clicking next, I've created options that people, the recipients, can look at to see whether or not they want to attend. You create the poll, and then as you've got there, schedule a meeting for test meeting, scheduling poll, and when I press send, the recipients will get this option as to vote as to which option they think is best for them. So if I send that, and I know we've got Rich and Rach and Dave on the call, so if I send that, and
And the
then we'll
beauty of
wait to
this
see
one,
what you come
Mike,
back.
of course, is you can involve this with people who are outside your tenants as well. So that means that if you can't see their availability, that's a really good way of being able to actually understand and to arrange meetings with people whose diaries aren't on our tenants. So that's the email that's come in. You can see here, and I can see a vote button. I simply click the vote button, and this is now looking at my calendar at the same time, and everybody else. So you can see Richard's already been swift there, voting what his favourites are. Adrian probably won't respond. I don't think Simon's available, but I can put that I prefer this meeting, I can't do that one, etc., and click the vote button. You can also change some people to become optionals in the meeting as well. So if you wanted to say that Adrian is no longer required attendee, if Adrian doesn't vote and everybody else does, the meeting will be scheduled. So it's a really good way of being able to click through and vote submitted. Because we haven't got all those there, then they're not going to be forced through. But Mike, as the meeting originator, can actually force an option as well. So you can actually click a button and make that meeting happen at a certain date. The other thing is as well, as soon as you vote, it actually puts tentative holds in your calendar, so you know not to book something else if you voted that you would be available to it. So again, a hugely beneficial way in terms of scheduling meetings both internally and beyond.
Should I show Dave what the organizer now sees as I
Yeah,
started to
please.
receive the votes through? Thank you.
Yeah.
So if you share my screen.
Sharing.
So as you can
Yeah.
see, as the organizer, I've had 4 votes out of 6. And looking at the responses around the different dates, you can see where people have said yes, they know, and where they prefer. So as an individual, as the organizer, I can then see which is going to get the best response or the best attendance. And then I can send that as an option to everyone to say, right, this is now the date and time for the meeting. And then people will, as Dave rightly said, it's already populated into the calendar and it'll take the other options out. But it really does, it's beginning to save me sort of across a week, a couple of hours of, toing and froing with regard to scheduling the meeting. So it's a bit of a godsend really, or a
And it
Microsoft
also,
send.
yeah. And it also saves obviously a lot more efficiency in times. And there's another way you can do that. So perhaps you've had an email in, like we had the email to Teams. We can do email to meeting. So this is an email Mike sent me yesterday as we were working. We're going to come into co-authoring in a second. But there's the Teams button we've already mentioned. But if you click the 3 dots, and the magical 3 dots means there's always more to learn, you've still got the Share to Teams button again. But you see with the reply with other actions, reply but or by meeting. Again, what that will do is open Outlook Calendar. It says, and it's hoping it's popping up on the right screen. This is where, when I'm demoing, I have a lot of screens open, so it doesn't always appear where I want it to. Let me try again. Should be there somewhere. It should be. Yep. No, that's a different meeting. One more time. It's probably hiding under all these windows I've got open at the moment. But it is just playing around a little bit. I'm not sure where it's vanished to, so I won't be able to demonstrate that right now. In typical demo fashion, it has failed. But what I will do is, sure, is just show you this screen here and the patch on the right hand side here, which allows you, if you don't want to use the meeting poll and it's perhaps an internal meeting, you can actually click through here and see people's availability and schedule a meeting that way as well. It's another quick way of being able to set meetings up in instant time. The demo's not working properly, but do have a play with that one yourself. You will find it really beneficial to you to keep things on top track of things. We spoke about co-authoring, and we've done this one a number of times, and it's still perhaps a bit of a dark art for people. And it is a little bit of a trick that you do need to be aware of, and it does save an awful lot of time. And the whole point of co-authoring is you must start off with saving your documents into the SharePoint space. So we're doing a bit of a Wizard of Oz moment here because of Wiki's open. We are basically going to show you how we prepare these things. And believe it or not, despite how chaotic these webinars sometimes feel, we do prepare them. And this is our Ready Retina. So you've probably got a bit of my script there on screen. And this is a Word document that I worked on. And you can see here, I've invited colleagues to join in. So this is how you invite a colleague to join in. The first thing to do is save it into SharePoint somewhere, but then you can add a colleague to join you. So there's Mike. Let's add him in. I can put a note on. Demo. Click the button, and Mike's now in there. Well, Mike was already in there because I can see his little icon there. I can see where he is on the page. I can see Richard's there. I can go to where Richard is on the page. So Richard's at the top of the page. Rachel's at the same place, and Mike is there, and he's editing. And you can see here, we can be both authoring, changing the text as we go along, being able to put the content in, have conversations, catch up on what's changed, all in the co-authoring space at the same time. So that can cause a little bit of confusion and worry with people who think, well, how do you manage the versions? How do you keep on top of it? How do you know which version's which and been approved? Well, in the share button, of course, what you can always do is manage access. So you can change the access your colleagues have in this. So here, Esther's currently got edit access. I can change that. And remove her access completely. I can give view access. Same across the board. You can come in here, change access. Now they get default access because of where I've saved this. As a team, we all have access to this file where I've saved it, but you can manage that elsewhere. You can notify people when they're given access. You can give a group access. You can give view access. All those things can be managed in the Manage Access tab. The other element, of course, is version history. So if I head over to the file, version history, you can see here now, these are the different versions of the document throughout its lifespan since we started drafting this. And I can go in and have a look at those versions at any time and restore them back to the version they were at that time. So you can see how we've done the changes and moved things around. And you can see the show edits is there, or I can turn off the show edits and it'll just show me the document as it stood at that time. So you can change it back to a version at any time, and you never lose those versions as you go through. So again, a really good way of being able to do your co-authoring approach to it.
I think, Dave, if I can just quickly jump in there, this is one of a huge time saver, because if I think of documents that I've shared with individuals to say, can I please have your comments? I'm waiting for everyone to send back the comments and then review it and then go from there. And it's usually via email. This way, everyone has access to it. We can see the comments, as you rightly said, but it's not just Word, isn't it? There's Excel, there's PowerPoint, so all the 365 sort of document types. It just saves so much time and it really helps with collaboration.
Absolutely. One other aspect of this as well is going back to teams, is how you collaborate with others who are both within the force and outside. Now, what it's a really powerful tool to be able to actually understand availability of people, etc. So if I just open up a chat here, I'll just bring it up onto screen. Bear with me a moment. So the demo chat we were using a moment ago, I'm just going to put that on screen. So you can see here that I've got my colleagues and I can see that they're all red because they're all busy. I can see who's available. If I open this panel at the side here, then I can see exactly who's here. That's the document we're talking about. It's brought in the attachments. I can see who's available. I can click on them to find out where they are, who the line manager is, where they currently are, and what notes they might have on their availability. So again, all those things. But I might want to actually bring somebody else into the chat who's in another organisation. So I might want to add people, and I'm just going to pick somebody who we have a lot of contact with and is always regularly happy to see who we are. So you can see James Evans here from Kent and Essex Police. I can add them to a chat for demo purposes as well. Start a new conversation. Because he's in a different tenant, he doesn't automatically get access to everything else, but we can now have a conversation with him about this and see his availability. Now, half an hour ago he was red. He's not available at the moment, so that's fine. I'll drop him out of the chat. That's not a problem to say, and I'll let him know what we've done. So I'm removing him from the chat there. So again, you can really easy way of following things through, managing what's going on, searching through a chat. And of course, if you want to make it a bit more memorable, you can rename the chat, so it's easier to find in your chat line as well. So again, a really simple way of being able to pin, understand, and bring in external and non-external people as you go through your chatty messages and see if they're green and bring them in, have a chat with them straight away.
I think, Dave, we've got 5 minutes left. I think there was a question in the chat.
There was. So how much of the thread does it pull through onto Teams? Well, that's obviously referring back to our email example earlier on, where you bring in, it brings about the first 2 or 3 emails. From my experience, you can choose to bring in more if you want to, but I find that it's something to start early is a really good thing to do. When you know you're going to need to start to collaborate with colleagues, bring it into your chat at that point and you'll get a lot more out of it and save a lot of time on it. I think we haven't got any more questions. Keep them coming in if you have, but I'll start teasing something that's coming up very soon. If you've been keeping an eye on the chat in the collaboration channel and on the announcements, you'll be hopefully as happy as I am that we've now announced that the Innovation and Digital Summit, the National Police Chiefs Council Innovation and Digital Summit, is going to take place in October this year. It's open for pre-registration now. So if you were working in the police technology, police business change, policing, or the supplier community, you want to get involved in this, you can register your early interest now by scanning the QR code. Head over to the dedicated page on the Police Digital Service website. We've been commissioned by the National Police Chiefs Council, both the Science and Innovation Committee and the DDAT-CC Committee, to host and to manage this event for them. It's going to be bringing together everybody who's involved in police technology and innovation to actually understand the difference, to know what's going on, and to participate. So we are opening that up at the moment. Please do pre-register. We'll be sending out registration details soon. Remember to keep in touch with your business engagement team. They're there to help and support you. Always a reminder, the solutions catalog is there. If you've got solutions and ideas to share, it is really helpful to understand what's coming up. And in terms of what we got coming up, there's a PALS workshop in a couple of hours' time. For those of you in the technical spend, make sure you have registered for that. The details have gone out to everybody in the collaboration channel. And then really pleased that the Office of the Chief Scientific Advisor is going to start joining our Wednesday webinars on pretty much hopefully a monthly basis or so. And we're kicking off with them next week, where we're going to be looking at innovation and how they're facilitating that. So please do join us next week's Wednesday webinar, when the Office of Chief Scientific Advisor for Policing is going to be there to help join us and keep things going. So more to cover. I think that's about all the time we've got for. So there's going to be lots of more events published in the next coming weeks. It's been a very busy time for us over the last couple of weeks engaging with people. So the calendar's looking a little bare, but the plans are going in so we can see and get all the webinars in place. And remember, you can replay your webinars at any time. Thanks to Mike for joining us today, and I'm just going to throw Richard on screen because make sure he gets his scene on screen. Rachel's got a camera off, so she's avoiding it. But thanks to everybody who's supported us today on the webinar. Please reach out to the team so we can make sure we're covering everything that's coming up. Thanks a lot for joining us.